Let's get right into it. Number 5. The Third Wave. Imagine a high school classroom in 1967. The subject is history, specifically the rise of Nazi Germany. The teacher, Ron Jones, faced with a question he couldn't easily answer: how could the German people have been so blind to what was happening? Decided to show them. He started a simple, one-day experiment. He implemented strict classroom discipline. He had students sit at attention. He drilled them on the power of community. He called this movement the Third Wave, complete with a salute. The goal was to demonstrate how fascism takes root. But something terrifying happened. The students loved it. They embraced the rigid structure, the collective identity, the sense of superiority. They started reporting each other for not following the rules. Membership exploded from 30 students to over 200 in just 2 days. The classroom wasn't a simulation anymore, it was a cult, and Ron Jones was its accidental leader. He had created a monster, a micro-dictatorship that was spiraling out of control within his own school. To end it, he called a rally, announcing a national leader for the movement, only to reveal a blank screen and the chilling truth: they had all willingly given up their freedom for a feeling of belonging. Jones wasn't just a teacher anymore, he became the very authoritarian figure he was trying to expose, proving you don't need a villain, just a system that rewards conformity and punishes dissent. Number 4. The Monkey Drug Experiment. In the late 1960s, a group of researchers decided to see just how addictive cocaine really was. Their subjects? Monkeys. The setup was diabolically simple. The monkeys were taught to press a lever to receive a dose of cocaine. Soon, they had a choice between 2 levers, one for cocaine, one for food. The results weren't just predictable, they were a descent into a primate nightmare. The monkeys, without exception, chose the cocaine lever. Again and again and again. They stopped eating. They stopped sleeping. They pressed the lever until they convulsed, had seizures, or died. One monkey pressed the lever 12,800 times in a single session. The experimenters, in their quest for data, had created a gallery of horrors, reducing intelligent creatures to skeletal addicts literally starving to death in front of a lever that promised bliss. The villainy here isn't a single person turning evil, but the cold clinical process of science itself becoming monstrous. The researchers became puppet masters of addiction, observing the total self-destruction of their subjects from behind a clipboard, all in the name of understanding a chemical. They proved a point, all right, that the drive for a high can override the will to live, and that the people watching it happen can justify almost anything in the name of an experiment. Number 3. The Aversion Project. In the apartheid-era South African Defense Force, from the 1970s to the 1980s, a sinister program was designed to cure homosexual soldiers. The man at the heart of it, Dr. Aubrey Levin, wasn't a cartoon villain twirling a mustache, he was a respected psychiatrist. His methods, however, were pure horror. Suspected gay personnel were subjected to aversion therapy, a grotesque form of psychological conditioning. They were injected with drugs to induce nausea and paralysis, then shown homoerotic images. The goal was to rewire their brains to associate their sexual orientation with violent physical illness. If that didn't work, the escalation was unthinkable: chemical castration and even forced gender reassignment surgeries. Dr. Levin, armed with the authority of his white coat and the backing of a bigoted state, transformed from a healer into a torturer. He weaponized his psychiatric training not to alleviate suffering, but to enforce conformity, systematically destroying the minds and bodies of hundreds of young people. The experiment was a catastrophic failure in its stated goal, but a chilling success in demonstrating how easily a medical professional can cloak monstrous acts in the language of science and treatment, becoming the very source of the disease he claimed to be curing. Number 2. The Pit of Despair. Psychologist Harry Harlow was already infamous for his cruel monkey mother experiments, but he truly outdid himself with his later work. He built a device he clinically named the vertical chamber apparatus. Everyone else called it the Pit of Despair. It was a stainless steel, V-shaped chamber with slick, slanted walls, designed so a baby rhesus monkey placed inside could never climb out or even see another living creature. They were left in this solitary confinement for up to a year. The point? To see what would happen. The result was a foregone conclusion to anyone with a shred of empathy. The monkeys, once removed, were permanently, catastrophically broken. They sat frozen in place, rocked back and forth, and were incapable of any social interaction. They had been driven to utter psychological ruin. Harlow, in his quest to map the contours of depression and despair, didn't just observe it, he became its architect. He was no longer a curious scientist, he was a jailer in a lab coat, a creator of suffering so profound that his name remains synonymous with ethical bankruptcy in research. He proved, in the most horrific way possible, that you can indeed break a soul with nothing but isolation and a slick piece of metal. Number 1. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. The grand prize for state-sanctioned, human-turning-into-villain experiments doesn't go to a lone mad scientist, but to the entire U.S. Public Health Service. In 1932, in Macon County, Alabama, they initiated a study on untreated syphilis in the male Negro. The title itself is a masterpiece of bureaucratic evil. They enrolled 600 African American sharecroppers, 399 with latent syphilis and 201 without, under the guise of providing them with free health care. They were never told they had syphilis. Instead, researchers told them they were being treated for bad blood. The true monstrous purpose of the study was to observe the natural gruesome progression of the disease as it ravaged the human body, to the bitter end. Even when penicillin became the established, life-saving cure for syphilis in 1947, the men in the study were deliberately denied it. Researchers actively prevented them from accessing treatment, lying to them, and even tracking them down if they moved to ensure the data points didn't escape. For 40 years, these public servants, these doctors and nurses, watched as men went blind, insane, developed debilitating tumors, and died, all while meticulously taking notes. The study didn't end because of a crisis of conscience. It was exposed by a whistleblower in 1972. The Tuskegee study isn't about one person snapping, it's about how an entire system, cloaked in the authority of science and government, can slowly, methodically, and politely strip away the humanity of both its subjects and its practitioners, turning healers into agents of death for the sake of a footnote in a medical journal. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.